I'm Ayisha Mendez, the Community Manager for ForbesBLK, and I'm here with Michael Smith. Michael, thank you so much for being with me today.
It's a pleasure.
Well, Michael, you are a 2025 Forbes BLK 50 lister and CEO of Eckerd Connects. So, can you tell our listeners, how do you think Black leaders and entrepreneurs can take advantage of the AI boom?
Look, I think Black people need to be at the head of every new trend. There's been a lot of fear that's been out there about this new technology that is AI, just like there was fear about the telephone. Or I remember when the internet was becoming a thing, people were worried, what is that going to mean? We need to make sure that our kids, our communities, our business leaders know everything there is to know about AI. Not only how to use it, we were just hearing the founder of Slutty Vegan talk about how ChatBTisha is her new friend. And so we need to make sure that we're using it to enhance our business, to enhance our nonprofits, but we also need to make sure that these new jobs that are coming up, the new companies that we can create, all of the downtime that people are going to have because they're not doing some of the tedious work that all the artificial intelligence is now going to take away, we need to make sure that we are at the beginning and that we are investing and making sure that as this new money is flowing into our community, whether it's government or lab to market, that we are at the beginning of that. Because we are culture leaders. We have incredible ideas, and we can take this to benefit our communities in amazing ways.
Oh, Michael, I would love to dive into that a little bit more. Do you see any unique opportunities for Black leaders to harvest AI for their advancement?
Absolutely. So at Eckerd Connects, we are one of the nation's largest workforce development providers for opportunity youth. Nearly 7 million young people between the ages of 16 to 24 that are not in school and not in work. We run Job Corps centers. We run workforce development centers. We run one-stop shops. And so right now and in the coming year, we are training young people on how to use artificial intelligence.
That's amazing.
What are the jobs that are out there? How is it going to affect industries that are coming about? So we've got folks that are doing hospitality. We have folks that are doing construction. We have folks that are doing pharmacy tech. And AI is going to be a part of all of those fields. So we want to make sure that when they're going to those jobs, they are not thinking about the tools of the past, but they're prepared to exploit them. I also think as a social sector leader, look at all the challenges that our community is facing, whether it's healthcare challenges or crime and violence or education and literacy.
Or even Black mental health.
Or even Black mental health. AI is going to be an extraordinary, incredible solution that I think is going to allow us to go leaps and bounds in the ways that we just couldn't do on our own.
I completely agree. And I think, I was actually on stage yesterday having a conversation about mental health and how millennials and Gen Z are actually using AI for mental health services and support. It's free, accessible, and I think it's the way of the future. So I think that our younger people would definitely agree with you on that.
I think that's right. And if we can combine AI with people, so when I was CEO of AmeriCorps, we started something called the Youth Mental Health Corps with Pinterest and the Schultz Family Foundation. And so we now have young people that are working in schools all across this country on a near peer mental health model. So if we can start pairing some of this latent talent, letting young people lead along with the AI solutions, especially in rural communities or exurban communities, then I think we can go a really far place.
Yeah, well, I hope they continue that development because I think that will definitely take us into the future. What role do you see entrepreneurship playing in strengthening underserved communities?
Look, if you don't have a job, you can go out and you can work for someone else. And, right now, I think the data shows us for the first time since 2010, we have more people that are looking for jobs than there are jobs available. It's a scary time. Like I remember my first jobs were right after 9/11. I remember the layoffs that happened after the housing market. And, never let a good crisis go to waste. So while you are out there looking for jobs and you're submitting those resumes and you're doing those networking events, if you see a challenge out there and there is a white space and there is a gap, maybe that's God telling you it is time to create something, to put that mind to use, to put that talent to use and start something, and you never know what may happen. And there's all sorts of tools and resources and organizations like the National Foundation for Teaching Entrepreneurship, for instance, organizations like Eckerd Connects that are not only thinking about how to get you to go work for somebody else, but to show you how you can use your talents to create something from scratch.
Yeah, and I think a great example of that is the COVID pandemic, right?
Yes.
During that time, a lot of us were at home, and we saw like a whole new creator community, spark from like people's homes.
That's right.
So I think, regardless of if you're looking at entrepreneurship or you're looking for a job, there's a lot of ways to make additional income or new revenue streams online. And so I think there's a lot of different ways that people can explore, being creative with making more money. And so I think that that's like a really great example.
And not only even making more money, even in the social sector. So when I was CEO of AmeriCorps, we had about 200,000 AmeriCorps members that were deployed across the country working on health and homelessness and childcare and education and climate and the environment. But we were finding our biggest competition at times where young people were saying, I'm done with your stale old institution. Y'all are moving too slowly. This application process is taking too long. I'm going to start my own nonprofit. I don't even need to be a nonprofit. I'm going to start a meetup and we're going to come together talking about those things. And so I'm excited about young people who are saying, forget the stale and status quo. We're going to innovate. We're going to be entrepreneurial, and we're going to create new solutions to deal with some of these challenges that have been perplexing our communities for far too long.
Yeah, and I think, TikTok is even incentivizing, professionals to share, those quick tips on like how to start a business or what to kind of like invest in. And so I think, the attention spans are so small these days for a lot of people.
Mine too.
Yeah, exactly.
What is this interview over?
Okay, so you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but what advice do you have for young people who might want to enter into social service and want to have an impact in their community?
Well, one thing I've been inspired by my friend Governor Wes Moore, who has been talking a lot about this idea. If you find yourself in the room as a black or brown kid, it's not because of tokenism. It's not because someone wanted you to be there. It's because you belong there. You have unique skills, abilities that our community desperately needs. When I was running President Obama's My Brother's Keeper initiative in the Obama administration, our President's Council on Economic Advisors put together a study that showed if you are a black baby boy, born 25 years ago, you had a 1 in 2 chance of being employed today in America. And that was due to early death, incarceration, or other inequities in employment, education, et cetera. But that same study showed if we could close the labor force participation rate between young black men and their peers, we would increase GDP by 2%. So if we fix these pipelines, if we open up the doors of opportunity, we are not only making a difference for me and for you and our community, it is making America more globally competitive. It is making Atlanta more globally competitive. And so you need to know as a young person that it is not just about you. This nation needs you to be successful.
And so what skills do you think they need to develop to be successful?
We talk a lot about grit. Life is going to come at you hard. You're going to fall down and you're going to have to get back up. You're going to have a business plan that's going to crumble. You're going to think that you had a solution that was going to be the best thing since sliced bread and someone beat you to the market. And so you're just going to have to know that you're going to keep going, and that fail forward. Take all of the lessons. And even in my own faith life, I find myself saying, I don't want to get to the other side really quickly. I need to make sure I am learning all of the lessons that I need to learn from the experience, because it's those things that teach us and make us stronger to be better leaders for the future.
So yesterday, Emma Greedy kicked off our summit by saying grit is something you're either born with or you're not. Would you say that you agree with that statement?
I do not agree with that statement. I think life tests us. It teaches us. I was just at my aunt's 92nd birthday. They are a part of that great migration story. They left Riegelwood, North Carolina, her and my grandmother in the 1950s. And they had perseverance. They had grit. They had determination. And sometimes different experiences happen that allowed them to move a little faster. And so I think it is a muscle that you can build. There are people that can mentor you. There is someone that can hold your hand. And by the way, maybe sometimes there are different situations that will test you in different ways, and you need to find out, maybe I wasn't good in this space, but I'm good in this space. Maybe this kind of mentor didn't work for me, but this kind of mentor works for me. So I believe all of us have the ability to grow, to learn, and to persevere.
No, I actually completely agree with that. I feel like sometimes you don't know how hard you can work until you're put in that position.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
That's how we all grow at the end of the day. In a time where aid is being rolled back for underserved communities, what do you see as the way forward?
Well, the first thing that I see is each other. I mean, we don't have to go that far back into the past to look at, for instance, after George Floyd, and when we were seeing this dual crisis of a pandemic and a racial reckoning, where our communities came out and helped each other in the midst of a crisis where people didn't know where the economy was going, the health of their own communities. We created mutual aid networks. We demanded that companies change the way that they think about policies and procedures. When folks were hungry because the economic situation was challenging, we showed up in droves to food banks to help one another. So yes, we should demand that systems change. Yes, we should hope that philanthropy gets more. Yes, we should hope and fight that policies change. But first, it starts with me and you. It starts with our family. It starts with our neighbors. It starts with looking inward and making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. Because you and I would not be here if those generations before us didn't do that. I grew up with single parents who were both 16 years old when I was born. We did not have a whole lot of money, but let me tell you, that community took care of one another. If my mother couldn't afford that field trip, maybe one of my uncles did it. If my mama couldn't be home, I could knock on one of my neighbors' doors. And those communities who had very little gave their last to make sure that kids like you, kids like me, could succeed and dream dreams bigger than we could ever imagine.
Yeah, no, I think that, I grew up very similar. I grew up with my grandmother. And so I remember getting an opportunity to take classes at Georgetown University, but I had to pay, it was like a few $1,000s for that summer program. And I put together a fundraiser, and people I didn't even know in my community donated. And I think it was in like a few days, I was able to raise all of the money. So I think that that's just a perfect example of communities really showing up for each other in times of need.
Because we see it more. We know those words of Dr. King. We are all inextricably linked. And we can see that when you succeed, I succeed. And that is why we're investing in one another.
Absolutely. So I'll leave you with this one final question. What gives you hope in this moment?
What gives me hope is the young people, whether it was head of My Brother's Keeper, CEO of AmeriCorps, or now CEO of Eckerd Connects. I spend a lot of time with young people who oftentimes we're trying to get a second chance. And I realize sometimes they didn't even get a first chance. They grew up in underfunded schools, over-policed communities. The job situation in their community wasn't strong. Health and educational opportunity wasn't strong. And I see them persevering. I see them trying. I see them coming up with creative ideas, and not only trying to better their own life, but better their families and better their whole community. And so when people say, is this generation apathetic? Is this generation too inward? I see a generation that is showing up and that is doing it in a way that it is not only about the individual, but is about the whole. And that gives me incredible excitement each and every day.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for sitting down with me today.
Thank you. This has been fun.